0600 hours, Western Pacific Ocean. The sun cracks the eastern horizon, painting the water in streaks of violet and burnt orange. The ocean heaves with a slow, rhythmic swell. The U.S. destroyer group cuts through the waves in a tight wedge formation. The gray steel hulls of the warships glint in the early light. On the flight deck of the lead destroyer, a crew secures a helicopter with heavy chains. Sailors in blue camouflage uniforms lean against the railing, sipping hot coffee from metal mugs. The air smells of salt spray and marine diesel. The deep thrum of the engines vibrates through the deck plates, a steady heartbeat of power. It is a morning of absolute routine. Deep inside the ship, the Combat Information Center remains dim and cool. Blue light from dozens of monitors bathes the faces of the radar operators. They sit in silence, eyes scanning the green sweep lines. The air conditioning hums. A tactical officer scribbles a note on a clipboard. Then, a console on the far wall chirps. It is a sharp, electronic spike of sound. An operator leans forward, squinting at the display. The chirp repeats, faster this time. A red icon blinks into existence on the upper edge of the main strategic map. The operator freezes. His hand hovers over the keyboard. "Contact!" he yells. The single word fractures the silence. Massive heat bloom detected over the mainland. Multiple launches. The tactical action officer spins his chair. "Confirm profile." "High altitude," the operator shouts, his voice rising in pitch. Speed increasing. Mach 5, Mach 7, Mach 10. They are hypersonic. The officer slams his fist onto the red alert button. The general quarters alarm screams. The sound is a jagged, pulsating siren that rips through every compartment of the ship. It tears sailors from their bunk. In the mess hall, trays clatter to the floor. Coffee spills across the linoleum. Men and women bolt for the hatches. Boots thunder against steel ladders like a stampede. The ship acts as a living organism, reacting to pain. On the bridge, the captain bursts through the door. He grabs the overhead railing as the ship heels violently to starboard. The helmsman spins the wheel, engaging evasive maneuvers. The deck tilts at a sharp angle. Unsecured binoculars slide across the chart table and crash against the bulkhead. "Get the defense grid online," the captain roars over the klaxon. "Spin up the interceptors, now!" The destroyer shudders as the main engines surge to maximum power. Black smoke pours from the stacks, choking the clear morning air. The peaceful wedge formation breaks apart. The other ships, frigates and cruisers, scatter, turning their bows toward the threat axis. Their radar dishes spin wildly, searching the sky. Inside the missile silos on the foredeck, hydraulic pumps hiss. Heavy steel hatches blast open. The launch cells expose their warheads to the sky. The ship vibrates violently as the automated loading systems slam missiles into firing positions. "Time to impact," the captain yells. 3 minutes, the radar officer screams back. They are closing fast. Too fast. The red dots on the main screen multiply. They streak across the digital map, covering hundreds of miles in seconds. These are not standard missiles. They are gliders, riding the edge of space, targeting the fleet with kinetic fury. The crew braces against the bulkheads. The siren continues its relentless wail. The morning peace is dead. The sky is about to fall. 0602 hours. Combat Information Center. The red icons on the main tactical screen fracture. The solid tracking lines shatter into chaotic zigzags. The hypersonic gliders detach from their boosters at the edge of space. They do not follow a ballistic arc. They skip off the atmosphere like flat stones on a pond. The ship's computer struggles to predict the flight path. The lock-on indicator flickers yellow, then red, unable to hold a steady tone. "They are maneuvering," the warfare coordinator shouts. He slams a fist against the console. "Target lock is breaking. They are dropping altitude." The captain grips the comms handset. His knuckles turn white. "Weapons free," he barks. "Launch everything. Clear the rails." The order relays instantly to the firing circuits. On the bow of the lead destroyer, The silence annihilates. Compressed air hisses violently. The silo hatches fly open. Igniters fire. A massive roar engulfs the foredeck. The first interceptor missile erupts from its cell. A column of white fire blasts the steel deck, scorching the gray paint black. The missile punches through the smoke, accelerating instantly to supersonic speed. The ship bucks against the recoil. The deck plates vibrate, rattling teeth and bones. Then the second cell fires. Then the third. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Pillars of flame vomit from the vertical launchers. The heat distorts the air. Thick, acrid smoke rolls over the bridge windows, blinding the lookouts. The roar is deafening, a continuous thunder that shakes the rivets in the hull. Across the formation, the other destroyers join the barrage. Dozens of interceptors streak upward. They tear into the blue sky, trailing long plumes of white exhaust. They look like angry fingers grasping for the heavens. The captain watches the optical feed. The sky is a web of smoke trails. "Track them," he yells over the rumble. "Guide them in." The interceptors climb. They pierce the cloud layer. They hunt the incoming gliders in the thin air of the upper atmosphere. The boosters burn out and separate, falling back toward the ocean. The kill vehicles activate, their sensors searching for the heat of the enemy. But the enemy is fast. The red dots on the radar screen jink left, then right. They pull G-forces that would crush a human pilot. They dive toward the fleet, closing the distance at 7,000 miles per hour. The gap shrinks. The interceptors adjust, thrusters firing wildly to match the erratic dance of the targets. 0606 hours. Upper atmosphere. The edge of space is black and silent. The curvature of the Earth glows with a thin blue halo. The U.S. interceptor missiles burn the last of their solid fuel. They are silver darts hunting in the void, closing the distance at 4,000 miles per hour. Their sensors lock onto the burning heat signatures of the incoming Chinese gliders. The geometry of the collision seems perfect. Mathematical certainty governs the engagement. The warheads are seconds from impact, but the rules of physics are about to snap. The hypersonic gliders detect the incoming threat. Onboard computers make micro-adjustments. Control surfaces shift. Suddenly, the enemy missiles drop. They do not follow a predictable ballistic arc. They violent bank, skipping off the dense layers of the atmosphere like flat stones on a pond. The maneuver generates immense G-forces. The U.S. interceptors cannot pivot fast enough. Their guidance systems scream in protest. They fly past their targets, missing by miles. The kill vehicles detonate in the empty vacuum, flashing harmlessly against the stars. The enemy warheads survive. They tip their noses down. They dive. 0607 hours. Combat Information Center. The tactical screen turns a wash of crimson red. The tracking symbols merge into a single, terrifying vector. "Interceptors missed!" the tactical officer screams. His voice cracks. "Repeat, all interceptors missed. Leakers inbound. Multiple vampires." The captain grabs the edges of the chart table. The steel digs into his palms. "All hands, brace for impact," he roars into the ship-wide intercom. "Activate point defenses. Smoke and chaff. Now!" On the weather deck, the desperate final layer of defense wakes up. The rotary cannons spin. The barrels blur into a gray haze. The radar-guided tracking systems swivel instantly, locking onto the meteors falling from the sky. The enemy missiles hit the lower atmosphere. They shed their heat shields. The friction turns the air into plasma. They scream down at Mach 8, trailing fire. The sound arrives before the visuals. A tearing, ripping noise that sounds like the sky is being shredded. The destroyer heels hard to port. The hull groans under the strain. Thump, thump, thump. The chaff launchers fire. Canisters explode in the air, creating massive clouds of aluminum foil strips to confuse the enemy radar. Whoosh! The decoy flares launch, burning magnesium bright to distract the heat sensors. But the hypersonic missiles are smart. They ignore the decoys. They see only the massive steel shape of the destroyer. They adjust their course one last time. The rotary cannons open fire. Bird! A solid stream of tungsten rounds erupts from the ship. The noise is a chainsaw tearing through metal. The tracers draw a line of fire in the sky, a desperate wall of lead trying to swat down a lightning bolt. The lead missile ignores the bullets. It punches through the stream of fire. It grows larger in the bridge window, a black shape wreathed in plasma. The captain stares at it. He does not blink. The lookouts scream. The world dissolves into white light. 0608 hours. Deck of the lead destroyer. The missile strikes. There is no explosion in the traditional sense. The Hypersonic Glide Vehicle hits the superstructure at Mach 8. The kinetic energy transfer is absolute. It hits with the force of a falling meteor. The steel skin of the bridge does not bend. It vaporizes. In a millisecond, the entire command tower atomizes. Glass, reinforced steel, and aluminum turn into a superheated spray of liquid metal and shrapnel. The captain, the helmsman, the lookouts, they are gone instantly. The air pressure spike liquefies organs and snaps bones before the brain can register pain. The missile continues its path. It shears through the main mat. The heavy radar arrays tumble backward, crashing onto the helicopter deck with a deafening crunch. The screech of tearing metal drowns out the ocean wind. The impact sends a seismic shockwave traveling vertically down the ship's spine. Deep inside the hull, the lights blow out. Darkness swallows the corridors. In the engine room, the shockwave hits the turbines. Heavy machinery is ripped from its mountings. A steam pipe bursts. Scalding white vapor fills the compartment. A mechanic is hurled across the room, his body slamming into the control panel. He crumples to the grate, blood spraying from his nose and ears. "Hull breach!" a sailor screams in the darkness. "We are taking on water!" The ship lurches violently to the right. The sudden list throws the crew in the galley against the bulkheads. Tables slide, trays crash. Men pile on top of each other in a tangle of limbs and bruising steel. On the weather deck, the heat from the impact creates a vacuum. Air rushes back in to feed the fires that erupt from the severed fuel lines. Thick, oily black smoke billows instantly, engulfing the midsection of the vessel. The destroyer is no longer fighting. It is dying. 0609 hours. Frigate USS Hammond. 500 yards to the east, the crew of the frigate watches the destroyer burn. The fireball climbs into the sky, oily and black. The captain of the frigate shouts orders from the wing of the bridge. He pushes the engines to full reverse. The water churns white at the stern. He tries to stop the ship, to pull away from the kill zone. But the sky is not empty. The second hypersonic missile dives. It does not screech like a jet. It arrives with a crack of displaced air that hits the eardrums like a physical punch. It streaks down at a 45-degree angle. It targets the frigate's midsection, just above the waterline. Impact. The warhead smashes through the thin steel plating of the hull. It penetrates deep into the ship's belly, tearing through the cafeteria and the auxiliary machine room. It hits the forward fuel tanks. Detonation. A massive orange sphere of fire erupts from the center of the ship. The blast wave blows the heavy steel blast doors off their hinges. It scythes through the passageways, incinerating everything in its path. The pressure vents upward. The main smokestack flies into the air, spinning end over end. The structural integrity of the keel fails instantly. The ship's spine snaps. The bow and the stern lurch upwards, folding the ship into a jagged V shape. The sound of twisting metal screams across the water. A high-pitched shriek of steel tearing apart. Pipes burst. Electrical cables spark and arc, showering the dark water with blue flashes. On the flight deck, the sudden tilt hurls the crew off their feet. A loaded helicopter slides sideways. It crashes into the safety netting, rotors smashing against the deck, sending shrapnel spinning through the air. Sailors slide helplessly down the angled steel, grasping for handholds that are no longer there. They tumble over the edge, falling 50 feet into the churning, debris-filled ocean. The sea rushes into the broken hull. The water boils with escaping air and steam. The frigate groans one last time. The two halves separate. The bow section rolls over, exposing its red underbelly to the morning sun before slipping beneath the waves. 06:15 hours. Deck of the lead destroyer. Thick, oily smoke chokes the starboard corridor. The red emergency lights strobe in the darkness, casting long, jumping shadows. The deck lists 20 degrees. Water mixed with fuel sloshes against the bulkheads, soaking the boots of the running sailors. The air temperature spikes. Paint blisters and peels from the steel walls. The ship shudders as secondary explosions pop deep within the wreckage of the superstructure. A damage control team charges through the haze. They wear silver fire proximity suits and oxygen masks. They drag a heavy canvas hose, their boots slipping on the wet steel. The team leader signals with a gloved hand. Two sailors grab the handle of the watertight door. It glows dull red from the heat behind it. They crank the wheel. "Open it!" the leader yells through his mask. The door swings out. A wall of fire roars into the hallway. The heat is physical. It punches the men backward. The flames lick the ceiling, hungry for oxygen. "Water on! Water on!" The nozzleman pulls the bail. A high-pressure cone of white chemical foam blasts into the inferno. The water hits the burning fuel and instantly turns to steam. The white cloud billows back, scalding the team. They lean into the spray, fighting the recoil of the hose. They step forward, driving the fire back inch by inch. On the aft flight deck, the scene is a butcher shop. Corpsmen kneel over lines of wounded sailors. The smell of burnt flesh mixes with the salt air. A young sailor lies on a plastic stretcher. His leg is crushed, trapped under a fallen radar dish. A jagged piece of white bone protrudes through his blue uniform. Blood pools dark and slick on the non-skid deck. A medic kneels beside him. He rips open a Velcro pouch. He twists a black tourniquet around the sailor's thigh. He cranks the windlass tight. The sailor screams, his back arching off the deck. The medic ignores the scream. He marks the time on the sailor's forehead with a black marker. Deep in the belly of the ship, in the central control station, the executive officer stands over the engineering schematics. His face is smeared with soot. Blood drips from a cut above his eye. The main bridge is gone. The captain is dead. He is now in command. He grabs the sound-powered phone. "Engineering, report! Fire in the uptake!" A voice crackles back, distorted by static. "We are losing pressure in boiler 2! "Dump the steam!" the officer barks. "Seal the main ventilation shafts. Do not let that fire reach the missile magazine." He slams the phone against the bulkhead. The ship groans. The deck tilts further. The ocean is winning. 06:20 hours. Debris field of USS Hammond. The USS Hammond is gone. The ocean surface is a slick, undulating black bruise. Thousands of gallons of diesel fuel spread across the swells, suppressing the whitecaps. Hatches of the oil burn, sending thick, spiraling columns of smoke into the sky. The water is choked with debris, shredded life jackets, plastic crates, insulation foam, and jagged pieces of hull plating. In the center of the slick, heads bob in the black muck. Survivors tread water. They are coated in heavy fuel oil. It covers their eyes, their noses, their mouths. It stings and blinds. Men cough violently, spitting out the toxic mixture. They cling to floating debris, a wooden table, a sealed drum, a piece of torn bulkhead. "Over here!" a voice rasps. "Help me!" A sailor struggles to keep his head up. His life vest is torn. The weight of his waterlogged boots drags him down. He splashes frantically, his hand grasping at the slick air. He slips under. He surfaces again, gasping, oil streaming from his hair. A low hum approaches. It deepens into a growl. A rigid-hull inflatable boat, Arhib, from the surviving destroyer, cuts through the smoke. The gray rubber bow smashes through a floating wooden pallet. The boat banks hard, engines churning the black water into gray froth. "Cut engines!" the coxswain yells. The boat drifts alongside a cluster of survivors. 2 rescue swimmers in wetsuits and fins dive over the side. They hit the water with a splash. They swim with powerful, chopping strokes, cutting through the oil. One swimmer grabs the drowning sailor by the back of his collar. He yanks the man's head back, clearing his airway. He loops an arm under the sailor's armpit and kicks hard, towing the dead weight toward the boat. "Heave!" 2 sailors on the boat lean over the gun. They grab the survivor's belt and uniform. They pull. The man slides over the rubber tube, flopping onto the deck like a landed fish. He vomits a mixture of seawater and fuel onto the floorboards. The rescue swimmer spins in the water. He spots another figure, a shape floating face down. He swims to it. He grabs the shoulder and flips the body. The face is unrecognizable, burned and masked in oil. The swimmer checks the neck pulse. He shakes his head. He releases the body. It drifts away, bobbing in the wake of the boat. The coxswain revs the engine. "We are full," he shouts. "Head back to the mire. Go!" The boat surges forward, the bow lifting out of the water. It races back toward the surviving destroyer, leaving the burning patch of ocean behind. 06:25 hours. Hangar Bay, USS Mach. The cavernous steel hangar bay is no longer a storage area for helicopters. It is a slaughterhouse. Bright halogen work lights flood the space, casting harsh shadows on the gray non-skid deck. The air is thick and humid, smelling of copper, diesel fuel, and burnt hair. Rows of stretchers cover every square inch of the floor. "Clear the door!" a master-at-arms screams. The side hatch slams open. A team of 4 sailors rushes in, struggling under the weight of a frantic, thrashing casualty. The wounded man is covered in black oil. His eyes are white and wild. He coughs, spraying pink foam onto the chest of the sailor carrying him. They heave him onto a metal folding table. "Hold him down!" a corpsman yells. The sailor bucks. The corpsman leans his entire body weight onto the man's chest. He jams a plastic airway tube into the man's throat. The thrashing stops. The chest rises and falls in jagged spasms. The corpsman grabs a pair of shears. He rips the oil-soaked uniform open. The skin underneath is bright red, blistered from the heat of the explosion. Further back, the ship's doctor moves down a line of litters. His white smock is stained crimson to the elbows. He steps in a puddle of blood. It splashes over his boots. He kneels beside a young officer from the sunken frigate. The officer's arm is missing below the elbow. The stump is wrapped in a hasty, blood-soaked bandage. The doctor peels back the gauze. Fresh blood pulses out. He grabs a metal clamp. He digs into the raw meat of the arm. He finds the artery. He clamps it shut with a wet click. "Get a line in him," the doctor barks at a nurse. "Fluid bolus, wide open." Outside, the roar of rotors drowns out the screams. A Seahawk helicopter hovers just above the flight deck. The downdraft whips the ocean spray across the deck handling crew. The wheels slam down. The side door slides open. Crew chiefs start throwing bodies out. Not gently, but with desperate speed. Walking wounded jump and stumble, falling to their knees. Those who cannot walk are dragged by their collars across the steel. The helicopter lifts off immediately, banking hard to return to the oil slick for more. In the corner of the hangar, away from the lights, a pile grows. Black vinyl body bags. They are stacked like cordwood, 3 high. A sailor with a clipboard stands next to them. He unzips a bag a few inches. He looks at the dog tags on the pale, motionless neck. He writes a name. He zips it closed. The zipper hisses, a final mechanical sound of finality. 06:30 hours, bridge of the USS Mach. The sky clears. The hypersonic contrails dissipate into thin white wisps in the upper atmosphere. The ocean surface is calm again, save for the heavy, rolling swells of black oil. The silence returns to the bridge, but it is heavy and suffocating. The scream of the klaxon has stopped. The roar of the guns is gone. The only sound is the crackle of burning debris and the distant wail of a damage control siren on the lead destroyer. The executive officer steps out onto the starboard bridge wing. He grips the steel railing. His uniform is torn at the shoulder. Soot coats his face in a greasy black mask. He raises his binoculars. He scans the horizon. The lead destroyer, the pride of the battle group, is a ruin. It lists 30 degrees to port. The bridge tower is a jagged stump of twisted metal. Thick gray smoke pours from the midsection, obscuring the sun. Water pumps discharge streams of white foam over the side, but the ship settles lower with every wave. It is dying. To the east, where the frigate stood, there is nothing. Just a wide, ugly scar of oil and floating trash. A yellow life raft bobs in the muck, empty. The tactical action officer steps out behind him. He holds a radio handset. The cord dangles. "Radar is clear, sir," he says. His voice is flat, mechanical. No new contacts. The attack wave has ceased. The XO lowers the binoculars. He looks at the surviving crew on the foredeck below. They do not cheer. They do not speak. They lean against the gunwales, chest heaving, staring at the empty patch of ocean where their sister ship used to be. A sailor sits on a mooring bit, head in his hands, wiping blood from his ear with a rag. "Get me a casualty count," the XO says, "and get the engines back online. We are sitting ducks out here." "Engines are at 40%, the officer replies. "We can limp home." The XO nods once. He looks up at the mast. The American flag hangs limp from the yardarm. It is shredded, scorched, and covered in soot. It barely moves in the stagnant air. The fleet is broken. The ocean belongs to the enemy.